So, welcome to the Financial Freedom Guy podcast. And I have a good friend who we actually go back like 9 years. This is like pre-COVID. Caitlin here. We're going to talk about sales, right? How do you get the right clients in the door? And Caitlin, we met at Richard Rossi's event. Richard Rossi, like entrepreneur kind of guy, built huge businesses kind of thing. And do you remember anything about how we met?
Yeah, I think he introduced me to Kirk, and you're like, this is the guy who helps me make money make sense. And so I was like, okay, I really need to know this person. Because at that point, money was this mystery, and I was trying to figure it out. And I knew how to make it. And I think I still am better at making it than I am at like saving or investing it. But yeah, when I heard that you were starting the Financial Freedom podcast, I was like, oh, that's perfect. That's exactly what all of us want and need. And so, yeah, really honored to have come full circle and be back around.
Yeah, Richard really said that it makes sense of money kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. I love him. He's somebody who just
Yes.
the way he thinks. I mean, just like it's hard to have a conversation with Richard and not come away with a huh. And I think you're that kind of person. You're not the journey on the things that you've done even with your family, traveling kind of stuff. I think you're that kind of person where it's more remarkable. You're not limited to traditional ways of thinking. So let's kind of go into that. I mean, let's kind of talk about your why. I mean, what kind of brings you into the type of work you do in sales?
Yeah. Well, it's always been that quest for financial freedom, quite honestly. I married my husband. We had his son, and I was now a stay-at-home mom, and I was losing my mind. Like, I was such a high achiever, and now I wasn't doing anything. And so I started entrepreneurial activity after entrepreneurial activity, and they were all bombing. And what I didn't realize at the time is that I didn't know how to sell. And so what I have come to realize is the very first like building block of whether you want to just be profitable as an employee or you want to be profitable as an entrepreneur, you have to master this art of selling. And nobody told me that. I sort of fell backwards into this. I hired a business consultant after I got my MBA, thinking that would help me set up my consultant agency and I could make money doing that. But it was him introducing me to his sales consultant, and that sales consultant hiring me as an appointment setter. And he was like, you don't have to sell, just put people on my calendar and I'll sell them. And I was like, well, I can do that. Like, I can build relationships and connect and establish trust and rapport and discover problems. I just don't know how to sell. What I didn't realize is that is selling, right? This building deep relationships, finding problems, building solutions together. This is the sales process. Oh. And so together, he and I started virtual coaching sales, and it's been about 13 years since we did that. He ended up going and leaving to start his own marketing agency, and I stuck building the business. We've made probably $11 million for coaches and consultants building their sales team. So I'm not even just like now good at sales. I now train people in sales, and I build sales systems, and I've gone like all in on this topic of sales, which is so strange for that little awkward wallflower who thought sales was evil and manipulative when I started. But that was the journey of coming to fall in love with this thing that gets such a bad reputation and recognizing this is the cornerstone for all future financial freedom.
Yeah, it's funny because sometimes money gets a bad rap, like it's good and bad, and money is the root of all evil. Then sales, you think of the sales, the used car salesperson pushing something on.
Right.
That's really not what I need. That's really doesn't fit my life at all.
Yes.
But I mean, the sales have to be like that? I mean.
Oh, yeah. No, that's what finally allowed me to shift this was I started realizing sales is an act of love and service, right? When we're doing this well, we are creating win-win transactions. And this is how we are creating value in the economy. So if you think of a sale as a win-lose experience, like I'm going to win and take your money and you're going to lose because you're going to have to give up your money, you are always going to sabotage. But when you realize that money is not a thing, money is simply a metaphor for real value, right? So I kind of think of it as a battery cell. We are out in the world generating real value with our time, with our talents, with whatever our capital. And we need a place to put that value and hold on to it until we're ready to go out and activate it as real value again. So if we're in a normal time clock situation, right, the employee gives their time, which has real value. They produce a product or service or whatever it is that they're getting paid to do, and their employer gives them a token. And that money token is like, here, I value you, hold on to this token. And then you get to take that token and you get to pay for a house, you get to pay for food, you get to pay for gasoline, and you get to actually exchange that token for real value. So money itself has no intrinsic value. Like, that's the nature of it, is it can't have its own value, because otherwise we would eat it or we would sleep with it, right? We would, like, it has to be an intrinsically useless thing in order for it to work as a token. And so once you understand that money has no intrinsic value, and you realize people are only holding on to it because they think it will give them something in the future, like security, like freedom, like significance, right? When you can understand what they think money means, then you can show them how this product, this service, this whatever it is that you are selling is going to actually deliver on that promise. It's going to actually give them more security, more safety. It's going to actually give them more freedom or fun. It's going to actually give them more significance and contribution, right? Yeah. And so you can tie the thing that you're selling back to the actual thing that they really want. And the money is just a transfer of you getting that token in exchange for giving real value. So your client now is enriched. They actually have the thing that they truly wanted in the first place. They didn't want this token. They didn't want this monopoly money. They wanted this thing that you're giving them. And you now have more tokens that allows you to go out and serve more people. And you get to continue to press this economy forward and give more value in all the other areas of your life.
Yeah, and it's really something. Somehow, sometimes, I'll say a lot of times, everyone has an idea. You're approaching a prospect, potential customer with a product or service, and they're defining their understanding of that product and service based on who they are. Mm-hmm. Right. So automatically, if you got something unique that really is different, it's not just fair exchange for that token, that money exchange. There's something really abundant. No, this is going to be better than you expect. This is going to be abundant exchange. But the prospect, the potential customer coming in doesn't know that. They're defining it based on. Right. So how do you get deeper? Where you find out. How do you get deeper to find out? You're just talking about what they want, what they really want. How do you get there? As kind of as part of the journey to figure this out together.
So the first thing I would encourage all of my salespeople to do is get unattached to the outcome, right? So I want you to be fully committed to the person, their success, their well-being, their next step, and be completely unattached to whether or not that's you or somebody else, right? So that's going to allow you, and one of the kind of mantras, the spiritual mantras that I advocate is this or something better. So when I'm getting on a sales call, I'm either going to close this person or there's going to be something better down the road, right? So I don't have to be attached to this person is going to pay my paycheck for today, or this person is going to make payroll that help me pay payroll this month. Like, I am unattached to this transaction as my providence, right? That client is not my provider. Money is not my provider. I am plugged into my provider. And if he or she, however you think of the divine, is what's going to use this client as a vehicle for my providence, fantastic. I welcome that. And if it's not, it will come in bigger and better ways elsewhere in perfect timing. So the first one is just unattachment to the outcome, but deep attachment to service. So I want you to show up in every single prospect conversation, client interaction as, how can I love and serve this person at the highest possible level? Knowing that if it's not here, it's somewhere else, right? So I always remind myself, I can't outgive the universe. So it's like positive karma, right? Every time that I'm doing a really good job on a sales conversation, I'm committing to serving this person at the highest possible way. I'm like putting positive karma in my universal bank account, right? And the universal bank account always pays dividends. Like you can't outgive the universe. So there's no downside to showing up with love, with service in every single interaction, because at a very surface level, it's going to help you with reviews, with trust, with referrals, right? They're going to become ambassadors for your brand because they trust you, right? If we think of Miracle on 34th Street, right? When Santa Claus is sending them to the store down the street, it blew people's minds, but they came back because they trusted that Santa Claus has got my back, right? They are actually doing what's good for me, not what's good for them. And so now I'm going to be a lifetime client. So it's thinking about the long game, not this transaction. I have to get something out of this transaction right now today.
Well, okay, so let's highlight some of that. You're basically developing salespeople where let it go. You're not pressured every minute.
Yeah.
You know, if you're truly authentic, get to know the person. You're almost describing being human, right? Loving, positive, figure out.
There's a great book called To Sell is Human by Daniel Pink, and he argues, right? This is the most basic skill set, right? Like infants sell, toddlers sell. Like we come out of the womb knowing how to get what we want. And we have to unlearn that intrinsic influence that we are born with, right? We have to get, like, our society tries to dim our light and tell us that we're not worthy and tell us that we don't deserve good things. And it puts all these constraints on. And then I think when we start learning sales, we have to just start clawing back that armor and shifting those limiting beliefs. I love sales because I feel like this is where we have to wrestle our inner demons. Like, what do we actually think about the nature of money? What do we actually think about our worthiness? What do we think about how the universal games are played? Right. And then once we've done that inner work and we've recognized money is infinite, the universe is abundant, I'm always taken care of, then we get to go out into the world and we get to wrestle everybody else's demons for a living, right? That's objection handling is just really helping people to get out of their own way and say yes to their truest and highest self and step forward with courage into whatever's their next step.
Well, that journey. I mean, you can't. There's going back to the beginning. You never thought you'd be doing this. You saw a small step where I can set appointments, or I can do that, so I'm not bored at home taking care of my son. And that led you on a journey of like self-discovery. It sounds like, right, where I don't have to have this high pressure, non-human. I can actually slow down. I'm paraphrasing. I put myself in your shoes. So I'm trying to take it in. This is why I take stuff in. Let me see if I'm in that person's shoes. And you start realizing. So it's like you started to realize that it's I'm not pressured. I really need to understand them where they're at, and whether it's what I do or whether it's what somebody else do, I can guide them to that place for them. And you're doing that without the fear of what could happen to yourself if the transaction doesn't happen now, kind of stuff. That's freedom. That's a type of freedom.
Yeah. And as an entrepreneur, it's really easy for us to manage that, right? It's harder when we're an employee, if we don't have a sales manager who sees things in the same way as we do, who is requiring a quota, et cetera. But even if there is external pressure, right? I'm a scuba diver. External pressure does not equal internal pressure, right? It is our job to equalize our internal pressure, no matter what the external circumstances are. So as we go into more powerful opportunities, it can feel like increased pressure. It feels like we're going down in the ocean, and every 10 meters, we hit a bar of atmosphere, right? There is actual physical pressure that's being exerted on us. But if we're self-regulating, we're breathing, we're popping our ears, right? On the kind of mental and psychological equivalent of that in real life, right? We're meditating, we're breathing, we're reminding ourselves of gratitude, and we're doing that inner work. We can regulate and we can show up with love, with authenticity, with courage, in this grounded, confident way. And so we can kind of ignore the external pressure that's being placed on us, and we can commit to our values of love and service. And it turns out you can be the number one salesperson in your office by completely ignoring all of the quotas that you're supposed to be hitting, because that's not your focus. Your focus is, can I love and serve the person in front of me at the highest possible level today? And just stay true to your own values would be my recommendation.
Yeah, and that's refreshing. It's the opposite of fear of missing out. I got to create scarcity. I got to create fear. I got to create a false sense of urgency instead of
Yeah.
really figuring out what's right for that person right now and the right, the timing. Maybe it's not right now. Maybe it's something else.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. Humans do need urgency in order for us to make decisions. We are evolutionarily, biologically wired to not take action unless we are in a state of pain, right? We are 30% more likely to move away from pain than we are to move towards pleasure.
Yep.
And, as we think of our evolution, that just makes sense, because putting your hand on a hot stove has an immediate feedback mechanism. We pull back. Pain has always equaled survival for us. Pleasure does not always equal survival for us. Our brains are not wired to reward the pleasure mechanism in the same way that it rewards the pain avoidance mechanism. And so when you are building your offer, when you are structuring your sales conversation, we do need to figure out where the urgency lies. It's just, you don't have to artificially create it. The ideal scenario is you find where there is intrinsic urgency. You have your client tell you, why is this necessary for us to shift this now? What happens if we don't, right? And so if you can do that early on in the discovery process, long before you get to a pitch, they're more open to share with you, okay, well, if we don't turn this around, I'm not going to be able to make payroll. If we don't turn this around, I'm not going to be able to X, Y, or Z. And so you want to make sure that you are asking them for them to answer, why is this important that we shift this today? Because they are going to need that urgency. They do need, most people need pain in order to make a decision. There's my favorite Les Brown story is he's walking by his friend's house and the dog's sitting on the porch moaning and complaining. And he's like, why is your dog moaning and complaining? He's like, oh, he's laying on a nail. Well, why doesn't he get up? Like, doesn't hurt enough yet. Right? So as salespeople, our job is to help people identify the actual pain that they're really in, not to inflict pain. We do not create pain, but we hold a safe container where they can be honest about their pain and talk about what are the real costs involved with not making a change. And that is where this becomes sacred work. That this is where we get to hold a beautiful container for them to be really honest with themselves in a way that they don't get to be honest with anybody else.
Yeah, that's it's urgency from a positive, safe standpoint. Really, what's the pain?
Yeah.
The solution's actually better than the pain, and it's doable, it's proven, capable kind of stuff. And it is something like we see in the growth CFO business building side. We see it like we come in on a pain point, we solve it. And there's a destination they want to get to, and we notice for a long time, once the pain is solved, that the motivation to follow through on that next step to get to the destination starts going down. Because status quo is okay, right? And then I don't know, roughly 9 years, started to figure out, well, we got to go beyond just the business objective. We got to go beyond just the business destination. We got to figure out who's the person, what is their vivid vision of their future self? What do they really care about? Then how do we align in their life? Then how do we align the business to help them achieve that for that part of their life, including right hat, you get the household income up, wearing the right hat to their purpose. So they're actually doing what they were born to do, and no one can do that better. And the rest, they have an organization they can delegate, and they can see things across the dashboard, so they delegate with confidence that the follow through is happening. And that seems to build on beyond the pain point. That seems to have let's take the next step. Well, okay, all right, it is working.
Yeah, right.
But it is that initial, from going back to sales, if that prospect you're talking to doesn't believe that you can, first of all, you had to get to the right pain point. You know,
Mm-hmm.
that you're describing really the right pain point. You created some level of trust where they feel safe. Then that you, okay, you can help me. Your product, service, whatever you're bringing to me, can actually
Mm-hmm.
solve that. You got to get that first step
Mm-hmm.
in a way where it doesn't feel more taxing on time or money or something else. So,
Yeah.
how did you? This is not the typical way a salesperson talks, right? And I mean, you're almost on a spiritual level, right? Going back to being
Mm.
human, which I think is more important now than
Yeah.
pre-COVID. People are starting to realize,
Oh
well,
yeah.
work, but what else? What else matters? And you can actually have both. When you're on the human level, prosperity, right? So
Yeah.
how did you? If you weren't born this way, right? You had to learn something along the way. Um, what were the tipping points for you to say those aha moments, this versus that?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think for me, the first one was this: selling is an act of love and service. So I had grown up religious, and I am still very spiritual. And so I knew that people were intrinsically valuable. I knew in my head that I should love them, and I couldn't see how selling was this, right? And I love how you said we have to connect our professional goals to our personal goals. Otherwise, we lose power, we lose steam, we lose energy, right? There needs to be this alignment between the thing that makes our heart happy and the reason we're on the planet and the work that we're doing in the world, that we feel that our vocation is contribution. And once we have that alignment, right, then it becomes energizing to do our work. And we are our own, we're plugged into universal power. Now we can keep going without burning out. When we're disconnected from that, we're not doing work that fills us and is soul fulfilling. So, just side tangent, right? I believe that my mission on the planet is to end emotional suffering for 1 billion people. And as long as my sales work was disconnected from that, this felt like a distraction, like a deviation, right? It was sucking energy from the reason I was here on earth, not feeding it. But as I've shifted it and I've started viewing sales as an act of love and service, I only partner with clients whose mission I believe in. When I'm training, obviously my preference, I love training women in sales because I do feel like when women master financial freedom, we change the world, right? I have yet to find a woman who does not become wealthier and the people who are around her don't get richer as well, right? So I really love teaching sales to women, but sales in general to everybody. But this, once I realized like, I'm helping people move up Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? I want them to achieve enlightenment, but I need to make sure that they are paying the bills, that they have this physiological safety. And then I get to teach them psychological safety. Then I get to teach them love and self-realization, right? It's like I realized that the work that I do in my business might be lower on the pyramid than where I would love to be, but I realized it's still furthering the mission. And so once I could figure out how the work I was doing was contributing to my personal mission on the earth, then that gave me the energy and the power to move forward, and to continue to expand this. So can anybody get there? I believe that they can. I believe that possibly with a good coach or possibly just through really rigorous journaling, you can figure out how is the work that I'm doing serving my bigger purpose. And if you can't bridge that gap, it might be time to sell your company. It might be time to get a different job, right? So I was talking to a healer and she's just like, well, I can sell other people's stuff. I just can't sell my own. And I'm like, well, do you actually think that your work is the best? And she's like, yeah. I was like, okay, then you have a moral obligation to up your sales game and get them to say yes to you, because if they don't say yes to you, they're going to say yes to something else, someone else, right? And you can't guarantee that they're going to actually get the transformation that they need if they go to anyone else. So if you don't think you're the best, go sell for the person that you think is the best, right? Be in integrity, right? Be in integrity and either go sell for the person who is the best at the thing that you want to do in the world, or become the best and sell people into your products and services with integrity and conviction, right? So
Yes.
either way, you need to be selling people into transformation and solutions. Just the question is, where are you going to do that with the most integrity?
And in full alignment with whatever that belief is.
Yeah.
And the person who does that is going to be better sales, more prosperous in their own household from a household income standpoint, and more free
Yep.
to live their purpose.
Yep.
That's really something. And you have a unique approach to, you call it the Hunger Games approach, right? So I think let's define the problem is sales, right? Somebody,
Yeah.
a business owner, isn't having that. It could be the top line growth or keep and grow customers. There's something where the right prospects either aren't coming in or aren't jumping on board.
Mm-hmm.
That's the problem. But then you have a unique solution. It's called the Hunger Games, which if you've seen the movie. So what is that all about?
So our organization builds sales teams. So we're a recruitment and placement agency for sales professionals. And we have done this primarily in the coaching and consulting, personal development world. And so, yeah, we developed a really unique recruitment model where we actually go to that business's community, their followers, their network, and we recruit from them. So we start with people who already know, like, and trust them and the brand.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you can always start your recruitment there. But I think the bigger thing is making sure that you're selling a mission, right? Not a position. So you want to understand that I think a lot of companies will do their mission, vision, values as sort of this token, like, checkbox that everybody in corporate is required to do, but then you put it in a folder and you never look at it again.
Yeah.
We want you to really get in touch with your personal mission, your personal vision, your personal values. And as an entrepreneur, how is your business an extension of that?
Mm-hmm.
And really be convinced that the work that your business is doing in the world is changing the world for the better. And if you can't find the story of transformation that you are creating for your clients, you need to either shift your offers or get a better marketing agency, right? You need to be able to find that story of transformation. And then you go and you start telling that story of transformation. You start evangelizing your mission and your vision. I do not want you guys to sell a product, right? We know that we don't sell features, we sell benefits, but I want us to think about that on a meta level. You are not selling a thing, you are selling a dream, right? And so when you're talking to your clients and your prospects, you are selling the dream. When you are talking to your employees and your team, you are selling a dream, right? Every single conversation should begin with, we are on a mission. Here's our mission. Here's our goals. This is how we're furthering the mission. Is everybody on board with this? Awesome. Let's go. And each department has their way that they are furthering the mission and furthering the dream. Mm-hmm. So then when you go to recruit, same thing. This is a sales conversation. I don't think a lot of entrepreneurs understand that when you're recruiting, you are selling, right? You are selling the people who are going to sell your company to the world. You need people who are fanatical about your mission, vision, and values, who are completely aligned, not just skilled at sales, but fanatical about your purpose, right? Because I can teach somebody who is fanatical about the mission how to sell better, right? Mm-hmm. These are just skill sets that you can acquire and improve over time. Yep. But it is very hard to take a shark, right? That cold-blooded professional sales closer and get them to buy into love, service, conviction, passion, right? It's much harder. Yeah. Right. Right. So you might be able to sell the shark on, you can make more money here than the guy you're working with can pay you now. Yeah. But you're not, that doesn't last, right? You're hiring a mercenary, not converting a missionary, right? So you want missionaries, not mercenaries. So the first step is to recruit from the people who already know, love, and trust you. And then we put them through the traditional interview process. We put them into a boot camp where they're actually working. So we put about 20 of them through a boot camp where they're doing outbound sales one week and then inbound sales the next week.
Mhm.
And we're testing them and training them in real time on the job. We do this with the coldest leads, so they can't screw anything up. It's just found money. It's not lost opportunities. And then we take the people who have done the best in that little window of opportunity, and we invite them to work with us moving forward. So you get,
That's the Hunger Game. You go through
and
real
that's the
world
Hunger
stuff, filter
Games.
out, and you're looking for people. If the shark has deep seated beliefs, consciously and unconscious, that you will never get to, right? They think it's a
Yes.
win-lose situation. That's it. Versus
Yep.
somebody else, you can see based on what they do whether they have
Mm-hmm.
that missionary that mission type thing. So that's something. It's such a it's such an evolution, right?
Yeah.
From like I'm gonna say the pre-COVID world of and where people are more heart centered. We want to produce,
Mm.
want to do something meaningful, and want to have real relationships with. If you're bringing somebody in, you're making promises,
Yeah.
and they the
Yeah.
sell, the prospect trusts the salesperson enough to whatever sign up. So
Mm-hmm.
who from a who standpoint, who does this work for? I'm thinking, is it B2B, B2C? Is it both? I mean, who does this approach work for?
Great question. We have perfected it in the B2C personal transformation space because it's really easy for us to make 100 grand in 2 weeks. I think the last project we did 327,000 in 2 weeks, right? So we can create really fast profit because it's high profit online services that we're selling to single decision makers. So we're usually selling to somebody who thinks of themselves as an entrepreneur, but they are the only person that they need to check with in order to write you a check. So it has kind of a B2C flavor about it. If you're in a B2B environment, it might be more challenging. You'd probably need to structure it as a smaller component where you're taking 3 to 5 of them and you're putting them through some outbound. And it might be as simple as cold calling, right? Like, hey, we aren't going to make you cold call forever, but we're going to start you here. We're going to pay you for it. You're going to get paid really well if you get results. And then those of you who get results as cold calling, then you're going to get the opportunity to close after that. The trouble is that depending on your sales cycle, you may not be able to get them to close a deal in a 2 or 3 week window. So you may need to just use something like cold calling as a way to test them and then decide to bring them on as a business development representative where they might have a salary or a base and they have 3 to 6 months to build their pipeline and fill their funnel. So in the B2B, like traditional corporate environment where you're selling bigger packages with longer sales cycles to more decision makers, you might not be able to get the same instantaneous results, but you can still kind of put your chosen candidates through a very rigorous 2-week training and performance process to just separate the wheat from the chaff.
Yeah, that's really something. So this kind of thing from I deal with business owners globally, mainly in the USA, Australia, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then the number one challenge is like having good salespeople because it's not
Yeah.
most aren't good, right? It's
Mm.
80-20. Most are like,
Mm-hmm.
man, you're not even paying for your pencil that you're using today.
Yeah.
And it's the number one. What are you seeing? Is recruiting and getting somebody up into the performance zone? Is that harder now? Is it always? What are you seeing?
Well, I think all of the challenges that we're seeing in recruiting, not just salespeople, I'm hearing this across the board. I just can't get good talent. I came across a meme the other day of like a sign that said, now hiring, anybody breathing, right? Like it was anybody who will show up, we'll take them. Right.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I think so there's a couple of challenges. I think you were right that COVID did wake up a lot of people to recognize time is short. I'm not willing to waste it, right? I want to do something that matters, that feels significant, where I feel appreciated, where I feel like I'm growing. This is especially true of millennials, right? So millennials want to know that they are supported, appreciated, and making a contribution. So as you're building your kind of employee culture, think, how am I supporting my people? How am I expressing appreciation? And how am I reminding them that they're making a contribution to something greater than themselves? So that's going to be a really good place to start. Is
Make a
you
note of that.
don't get the yes, you don't get the luxury of a unconscious culture anymore. Right? You used to be able to incentivize people with money, but millennials are not money motivated. We honestly would rather live in our parents' basements than have to work for a paycheck that doesn't feel fulfilling. So just keep in mind that, and the I don't know what we're calling them, the generation next, right, is
Z,
even
Generation Z.
more
Yeah.
the Zs, right?
Yeah.
The Zs are even more this way than the millennials are. They are fanatical about changing the world, right? They want to know that this is going to help the economy, help the environment, help the poor, right? They are the activists that are coming behind us. We're still Generation Me. We still want what we want. We want our personal freedom, but the generation behind us is the ones who are, nope, the world is on fire. And if I'm not helping put it out, it doesn't matter how much I'm getting paid. Like, it's not worth my time. So really getting clear on your mission, vision, and values is going to be the most important first step of why does this work matter in the world on a bigger scale?
Yeah.
And telling stories. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and Caitlin, this is the time to do it, right? We're in a period of
Yes.
kind of blah with all the political stuff going on and
Oh gosh, yeah.
negativity and stuff, and that's okay, right? It's a period. So this is the time to like retrench and really, for business owners, entrepreneurs, to bring their business into who they are, like why are they here, and elevate people to that level, including obviously very important. Your salespeople are that passionate about it. I deeply believe that we're going into a period of prosperity like we have not seen before. In roughly the
I'm with you.
2030s, it starts to smooth out. These five technologies that are coming in are just going to fundamentally change how we work, how we think, how we can live as humans, right? Less task level stuff, more this stuff. And it's a huge transition, huge for people who are doing task level thinking and work. But net benefit for the humans on the planet, it's there, and we're going to see things we've never seen before. And give credit where credit's due. The baby boomers brought 2 billion people around the world out of poverty, like one generation. Wow!
Yes.
And now that your generation and the next generation is bringing in productivity, but from a heart human standpoint, where it really matters.
Yes.
That's a good place for us to go.
It is.
Right?
It is. I feel really hopeful about the planet. I think we've got some major challenges that we're going to have to navigate. And that's why my mission is ending emotional suffering. Because when we're out of emotional suffering, if you think about your brain, when you're in your lower hemisphere, it's very hard for you to be creative, collaborative, curious, compassionate. We have to get people out of suffering into their upper selves, their higher selves, or their upper brain, depending on how you view the world. But this is where executive decision-making comes online, your higher cognitive purposes. This is where you aren't feeling a you versus me kind of world. You're looking at a you plus me kind of world. And so that's what I think we really need to focus on is how are we creating win-win-win solutions across the board? Yeah.
And Caitlin, I want to be on the journey with you because I totally, with heart and mind, believe that you're there. I had a similar journey from what financial management is, growth, CFO, transformation.
Yeah.
And so what is the best way for people who want to develop this option to really understand what you do and develop an option for themselves? What is the best way for them to contact you?
Yeah, so you can check me out on LinkedIn, Caitlin Kogan-Domner, CaitlinKogan-Domner.com. Our company, virtualcoachingsales.com, is one, ecstaticway.com is the other. But probably the easiest one is just to Google me and send me a note on one of the social medias and connect with me there because, it's hard for me to know what people need. until I actually sit down with them and talk to
Yeah.
them. Do you actually need just a person? Do you need a system? Do you need shifting your offers? Do we need to start at the baseline and get your culture right? So that's going to be the easiest way for me to serve you, is just let me know where you're at, and then we can co-create a solution together.
Yeah, and I can testify from our experience together. You actually do what you say, and people get more than they expected. But there's got to be a
Mm.
starting point. So for the audience out there, thank you for your time and attention. I encourage you to at least have a conversation with Caitlin. You'll probably come out for the better for it. At least an option will start to develop. So
Mhm.
Caitlin, we're going into a good world. So let's keep it going
Mm.
and do some remarkable stuff together.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Kurt. This has been so much fun.
Yeah, my pleasure. Yeah, I will see you soon. All right.